Hello, good morning. I'm Saeri Wilde, and today is a very special day. I'm sharing this transmission that I call the Origins of Light. It's a download I received in 2016, which is when I got a bunch of missions on Earth. And it really came to me in this, it was very much an initiation. And which is very visceral for me in my body. And I had this desire spring forth as I was feeling all of this intensity in my body, just kind of like, what's happening right now? I had enough experience with it at the time that I was like, okay, I'm going through an initiation. Something's coming through. And the desire that sprung forth was to tell a story for kids about how humanity got to be the way it is right now, but without any kind of political agendas. Because it's like you look at these creation stories, I mean, our modern ones or the way that we relate to them anyway, and they're full of agenda, in my opinion. And yeah, a lot of storytelling is to try to influence and mold us. So it felt like a cute little idea, even with all the intensity in my body. And then when I sat down to write it, it just came through me, and I was like, what is this? What is happening? So this story has been asking to be shared since then, and I've shared it mostly one-on-one with people, where I've read it to people. And yeah, so this is another step in service to the story, to share it more and see how it develops. It feels collaborative to me. And I also recognize that so the main character in this is the archetype of me. and I would say the archetype of this channel I carry, that is the 2551 in human design, the channel of initiation. And there are many other characters and stories, and I don't know that they're all coming through me. And so the desire and the invitation I have is that you may have a story coming through of something that you carry or something that you recognize on this fractal. And yeah, I'm here for it. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before I dive in? Okay. So I invite you to allow as much sensation as you can, and your body may need to breathe differently, may need to move. You might need to you might have different sensations of release, like nausea. I actually took a really big poop right before I wrote this. So I just want to give you a heads up that you may experience some intense sensations, and to just take care of yourself. And I'll be here for a little discussion and integration afterward, if you like. Okay, I want this window. Big. 0. I began in blinding light, joyfully desperate to see. With an idea of me and you, I cupped my hands around my eyes and created the first shadow. For the first time, focus happened, and my second desire was born, to see what is possible. 1. In a shadowy cavern, each fractal of light was revealed like a tiny bit of golden dough, and I began to play, stacking and sticking each fractal in careful wild patterns. One was, then two happened. With the addition of one again, three became, radiating the creation of direction, of leverage. One more was the birth of four, foundation. One more, and the first star quivered in the darkness. Two. I am star. My mother is one. My father is two. Three is our gateway. Four is our home. Five is my body, a shimmering miracle of imaginary points. I knew beauty. I birthed the world. Each shard of sacred light dough added creates a new variable. From each division, another perspective, and only one knows why. Since two, the only real passions are what, when, who, and how. What? Whatever you imagine. When? Always now. Who? Me and you. How? Through shadow holding light. 3. One moment I made a cave. One moment I painted the walls and formed my body. One moment I hovered at once above and below, and always at once inside and outside the circle. Then one moment I traced a plan in the air, and I knew too much. I wanted to be free to create, and somehow by knowing everything, I kept making the same stars over and over in the same patterns of light dough. It was so boring. Forgetting was the only way to truly create and feel and be free. I knew too much. It was blinding. Forgetting sounded like fun. I created shades like sunglasses that would follow me around so that I was in a cave wherever I went, and I could finally see what I was doing. It was just the beginning. We added and divided, emerging and expanding our portable caves of creation made seeing possible. Our portable caves of creation made seeing possible, an illuminating shadow so we may create free of knowing everything, playing with light dough. 4, tell a story. Who are angels? The world was conceived. Space was pregnant, glowing and knowing possibilities. Within the womb were worlds upon worlds. To go to the center of a world was to find another world, never ending, so that the space inside was as great as the space outside. In truth, there is no difference between inside and outside, but the game of forgetting made it fun to pretend like there is a difference. 5. So let's pick a world and we'll call it Earth. Upon Earth, there was a woman and a man. The man went so deep inside the woman that the worlds that made up their bodies danced until there was another body inside her body made up of infinite worlds. Every world has a special star made up of a unique shape of light dough. And since every body is a world, every body has a special star. The special star in the body was me. The woman was pregnant with Star. Star was so happy in her cavern of creation, stacking and sticking light dough together, making her body. All the inspiration came from the seed that pulsed, a unique star that the body creates around. The star belongs in her chest. 6. She would go inside her womb cave and paint all night. Listening to the music of her mama's heart, she would go so deep inside that she could pop out into another world and regard her work, creating her body around her star. From her perspective outside, she would dance with other baby stars in their chests, who had already been birthed out of their wombs, their caverns of creation. One day, the baby stars would come into their bodies and out of their wombs, their bodies out in the light of the world, holding the stars in their chests. Then their bodies were like their caves of creation, carrying their special stars with them to keep creating shapes out of light dough inside their chests. Seven. But many of the people, especially the older ones, had begun carrying their starlight above their head, above their body of creations, like balloons. The bodies were barely connected, barely guided by the lights, wearing very dark sunglasses and large dark hats on their heads. No one remembers how this began. There wasn't really a plan except to have fun creating with light dough. 8. Star and her friends looked on and together promised to bring the people a great gift to teach the bodies how to hold their beautiful lights and see the full spectrum of all the beautiful creations, each one a unique body of light dough. When they went so deep inside their caves that they popped out and could see every body, they would visit the other stars with bodies who had been birthed outside of their womb caves on the planet Earth and whisper in their ears sweet truths about each of their unique formations of light dough. They would encourage them to pull on the strings that held their star soul above their bodies and pull it down to plant themselves in their own chests. But for so many people, for so many bodies with their stars above them like balloons, it had been so very long since they held their light in their bodies, some of them since the day they were born, that though they craved to pull down their star balloons and hold them in their chests, their bodies had gotten filled with all kinds of other things, and there was no room for their starlights in their chests. 9. The bodies got very tired carrying around all these other things while their beautiful starlights hovered above them from fine strings like balloons. The bodies got sad too. Without their stars in their chests, the bodies would drag their feet and cry in their dark sunglasses and large hats, wondering why. And only one knows why. 10. The thing was that the sunglasses were just for the beginning, when the light was so blinding that no one could see. But by now, they had created the bodies to be like caves, so that the stars could come in and play with the light dough and add 1 and 1 and 1 and divide the dough into 2, making new numbers and shapes to dance and play. But they forgot. They forgot that that's what they were doing and started making the same shapes and the same numbers out of light dough over and over again. Like a factory, hats and sunglasses, 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 hats and sunglasses. It was so boring. The bodies knew there was something that they forgot. They didn't know what it was. Their desire to remember their star souls floating above their heads like balloons that really belong in their chests was so great that they never wanted to forget anything. But all they could remember was to put on sunglasses and big dark hats and carry their light above their heads like balloons. So every time a new body came in out of its womb cave, they would give the new body sunglasses and a big dark hat right away. And when the bodies were bigger, they would send them to schools to remember to wear sunglasses and hats. And still, there was something they could not remember, but at least they remembered this. 11. Star and her friends, way back in the beginning, when she first cupped her hands to create a shadow in the first cave to play with light dough, and when they first painted in their caves and first thought up the fun game of forgetting so that they may be free to create, so that they may remember. Way back then, they had made a promise out of light dough that they would keep the secret of why and a lovely jewel in the center of their chests, bodies of light. And remember, only one knows why. They did this so that if the other stars and bodies ever needed it, Star and her friends would come into bodies through womb caves to build their bodies with the secret jewel in their chests like a seed and be born onto earth carrying the special light to cause the people to remember. Their breath was like water to this seed, and as they grew with breath, so would the seed grow. Even though their well-meaning parents would put them in sunglasses and hats right away, and they would appear to be like everyone else who let their star souls drift above their heads like balloons, when their secret jewels sprouted, they would remember to take off the glasses and hats and show others how to pull their souls down into their bodies and keep their light in their chests to make the bodies happy again and see all the beautiful colors and keep playing with the light dough and feeling free. 12. It was risky to share the secret because what if it got so blinding again that they could not see? What if they returned to 1 and could not see 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and had to start all over? What if they forgot how to start over and got stuck blinded in the light? These were all possibilities. But things on Earth were getting very boring with too many shades, and the only reason they ever put on shades in the first place was to spice up how boring it was to be blinded in the light. It was really so silly for the people to suffer so. Some of the bodies were getting so sad and so tired, trying so hard to cling to remembering about hats and sunglasses that they would make their bodies live longer and longer without their stars in their chests. And they would vow that when they birthed babies, they would always make them wear hats and sunglasses. Some of the bodies got really angry and started fighting with other bodies about the right and wrong ways to wear hats and sunglasses. All of this meant people weren't creating fun new shapes and numbers and stars out of light dough. The new stars coming into bodies through womb caves sometimes would change their minds and leave their bodies, sometimes even before they were born, which made the mothers and fathers even more sad and angry. And they would wear even darker sunglasses and bigger hats because it was the only thing they were ever taught to remember. Oh, sigh. 13. Down, down they came through the fogs of consciousness onto Earth, Star and her friends, carrying a truth in their chests that would not allow them to remain shaded and forgetting their truth. They called themselves the Inner Glowing Constellation. While in the womb, they trained in remembering, rehearsed being awake in the face of the shady collective slumber, and held meetings and parties in different dimensions, making plans like, we're going to need to get team shirts, you guys. They made plans and backup plans with other stars to rendezvous once on the planet and help each other in waking up. Each member of the constellation had a special role. Some of them that had similar roles considered themselves a team or department or cohort. 14. Star's role was to wake up a little earlier than the others so she could recognize the others and to initiate them into awakening to their role. An initiation is a beginning that is so strong and clear and true that it changes everything forever. Her method of waking up early was to collect lightning in her chest while she was in her womb cave. The plan was she would come out of her womb cave, and every breath as she grew and grew would water her jewel seed that carried her lightning collection. After she was born on Earth, she'd have to learn how to use her lightning all by herself, even though she was just a little baby, because everyone else had forgotten about the stars above them like balloons with their dark hats and dark sunglasses, They couldn't even see their lights up there above their hats, much less a little baby carrying lightning. Then when her lightning would come out, it would make a bright shock to the chests of the people and plant a little lightning seed inside of them. With the first breath after one of Star's special shocks, the lightning seed would sprout, and the sprout grew rapidly. And as the sprout grew rapidly, it would zap and push out all the other things in the people's chests, making room for the stars above them like balloons. The stars above them like balloons would get really excited and start flickering, and the people would start to remember. And when they remembered, they'd pull those stars down, down, down as their hearts and their chests where they belong. Star would scare her parents and herself as she grew, because sometimes as she breathed and the lightning woke up in her, it would just come out. Things would get zapped, and the lightning would flare bright through the sunglasses, and everyone would hold their aching heads at the brightness. Some people would say, "What is wrong with this baby? She is too bright. She hurts my eyes." And other people would say, "Oh, wow, did you see those pretty lights?" 15. It was all a very good plan. Star and her friends had designed themselves perfectly to succeed in liberating the people of Earth from this terrible forgetting that kept them from holding their greatest gifts in their chests where they belong. But it was not the sort of thing that could be controlled. No, that would go against the great joy of creation and only ever led to making the same boring things over and over again. It was very difficult for a great many people when their lightning seeds would begin to sprout in their chests. They didn't know what was happening, and they really liked knowing what was happening. They would start to have the impulse to take off the hats and sunglasses. And that really scared some people because it was all they could remember, and they didn't want to give it up. Many of the people found they could sort of stay the same as they were, keep wearing their hats and sunglasses and issuing them to new babies coming in, if only they would barely breathe. They didn't know why this worked, but we know that when they didn't breathe, their lightning seeds wouldn't grow properly, and sometimes the lightning sprout would wither and perish for not enough breath. 16. Some days Star felt very lonely, tired and sad as she watched the people smother the beautiful gifts she gave them. Some days she wished she could forget too, and she would try, but it wouldn't be long before her lightning collection would zap her and make her breathe. But Star had made herself joyfully for this life, and as she grew, 3 wonderful things happened. 1, some people would let the lightning grow inside them, and they would go on to teach others about the lights above them like balloons. 2, Star became better at carrying and planting lightning seeds and only giving them to people when they were ready to let them grow. 3, the day came when she fully remembered who she is, and she called the first Earthside rendezvous of the inner glowing constellation. Star began her work to find her teammates, help them remember who they are so they may become better at the gifts they carried, because the lightning carriers was only one department of many. She also had many lightning carriers find her, especially in the beginning, and she would help them to be more gentle and know when someone was ready. The end for now. And at the time there were, I got like a little preview of stories of others' gifts and roles, as I've mentioned in the story and also in the beginning. Also the inner council, getting ready for mass awakening and the mass awakening. So I know some of you were popping on and off, and I tried to let you back in. Um, I tried to let you all in as I could while keeping the story going, and the two of you had just let back in. I'm sorry, I just completed it. It's funny, I really wanted to wear this hat today, and I completely forgot about the hat part in the story. So as I started reading the story and got to the hats and sunglasses, I was like, oh, that's why I wanted to wear it. Oh yeah, welcome back, sweetie. It's recorded, so you can catch the rest of it on the recording. So the floor is open if anybody would like to share their experience of that. You know, even if you're popping off and you miss some of the story, yeah, I mean, it's a transmission and it's frequency based, and so it's still in there. And I think sometimes that kind of thing happens with these Zoom calls because there might be something that's not for you to hear from me. And so you get popped off and then you can get it from wherever you get it, which is, you know, ultimately inside of yourself. I'm so curious what your experience was and what might be swirling for you right now or how you feel. Yeah, Enos.
Hey, morning. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, it was. I was just kind of laying in bed, doing cleaning in the room, and everyone's outside doing their thing. So, kind of catching you in the moment was just a good reminder. Just in terms of how to kind of remember in a way, and the joy, I guess, that comes with showing others, expressing to others in the many different forms that we can, to just kind of, yeah, just look within as always, and there's your answer, you know. So it was a lovely way to express to children, and I was kind of running with many ideas, with regards to just how it is you communicate to children directly, because that's kind of the purpose and the goal, right? When it comes to human design, when it comes to uncovering these gifts, and being reminded, with other children out there, that this is the same story that we see inside when we're in deep conversation with them, and that's kind of one of the many goals that I have as a parent, and as a father, uncle, many things, many hats that we wear, right? To kind of, even through our last exercise, I was on, in terms of centering, how you're able to center us, right? And I feel like this is a story that does that, in a way that's exploratory, which is good. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really look forward to, there's so many things that you can work with when it comes to these kind of stories. So, yeah, continue to share when inspired. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much. Brianna, you're unmuted, and it sounds like maybe you don't mean to be. I can mute you if you like. Or
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, honey. You get to hear some kitties.
I was just typing a comment. I may as well just tell it to you. As he was making that comment, my toddler came over and handed me a kaleidoscope that he found, and I just thought that was so fitting.
That is so funny. That gives me chills.
Right.
I love that quote from your girl that you posted today. What was that? How did we make such a wonderful boy or something like that?
She goes, how did we raise such a cute boy? And she's almost 6.
Yeah.
So she's definitely been a huge part of raising him. raising him into the young man he currently is at 1.5.
She's proud.
Yes.
Sister. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was so bizarre for me to have that intention and desire to write the story for children, and then especially the way that the story began was so abstract to me. And that's why I really feel that it was written through me and it was channeled, because I was like, okay. Like I was just like taking a dictation. And I had shared it with an author, this shamanic teacher. And I asked her if she would read it and if she would give me feedback. And, because I've had different times of like, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to publish it? I've seen lots of pictures, like I think it would be beautifully illustrated. And then I've also had this idea, desired that lots of different people could illustrate it, which that's really exciting to me. But she had said that I should decide if I was going to publish it as a children's book, I need to decide what age group it is, because in the publishing world, that's really important. And I was like, okay. And then I asked one of my coaching idols, Steve Hardison, if he would read it. And I asked him what age group he thought it was for. And his reply was anybody with ears. Which is so sweet, but didn't help my publishing journey. So I'm just surrendered to sharing it now. And this is the first time I've shared it in in this form, in a group. I'm just so tickled you all are here.
Okay, I was like listening to you read it. It was so just, oh, I just kept getting little pictures of like what it was and little bursts inside of me like, oh, this and this and this. And yeah, and oh my gosh, my heart, like I have these memories from being a little kid, whenever I would encounter a story that impacted me significantly or fed that part of me, then I would be like, oh, do you want to hear a story? I would tell, kids on the playground. And I remember the first time that I did that, and the story was about some kind of a folk tale or something like that. And one of the kids went home and tried to do something in the story, and it did not turn out well.
Wow.
And then everybody came back and was like, you made her do that. That was your fault. And I was like, oh, uh-oh. And I just was like, so maybe that's bad. Maybe that's not a good power to have, to like love stories. And so it was really interesting. Like, even as a child, I identified like there's this inherent power in that wasn't me. It wasn't really me. I was just transmitting it. I was just like, hey, this thing. So as you're talking, I can feel that like, hey, there's this thing. And it's super powerful. And it just makes me feel, like I can feel that like resonance in that chord. And So as you're asking about like ages and stuff, I think, like one of my favorite books is The Little Prince.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite stories. And it's like, who is that written for? Anyone with ears, right? Like but I'm sure it had a specific age, but it's like, feels like this universal transmission. And yeah, that's what, I don't know, that's what yours gives that vibe. And I loved it. It was super yummy for my ears, my heart, all of me. It was so good. I loved it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the like Una's one of the people on this call who also has that same channel that I have, that I feel that's what this is a metaphor for the lightning collection, because it has it's shock into awakening of universal unconditional love. And so I think that like the kid like the consequences or whatever of you telling that story was it was that zap, right? It's like the undeveloped gift, with the innocence of a child, just like just being and not crafting it, right?
And my human design, my motivation is innocence. And so I'm always, and I'm a 3/6, which before 30 was a 3/3. So I was always like, I don't know, let's see, find out what happens, it will be fun. Like, so yeah, it was just totally that zap. And then like, ooh, let's see what happens if we do this, or if we do this, or if we do that. And and no judgment, right, about that. So I love the hats and sunglasses as just a really powerful imagery, to like help you try that on, of like, ooh, what does that feel like?
Yeah, and now I'm also, I picked this up at the thrift store yesterday, which is one of the ways I connect with my spirit as I go thrift shopping. It's like one of my favorite pastimes. And I found I found a couple of thrift stores here that are not corrupted, by the like, ooh, this is really valuable. It's still kind of old school. And so I added this on. I like actually asked out if I could buy it, because I had heard like so many conversations happening before I got up to the counter about it. And I'm like, are you guys sure you want to let this go? But some of the wisdom from my yoga lineage that I trained in with Anna Forrest is that like we were required, when we taught during our training intensive, we could not wear black. It was not allowed. We had to wear colors, bright things, and the purpose of this is to entice our spirits into our bodies, so that our spirits would be like, ooh, yeah, I want to be in that body. That looks like fun. And I feel that's very much what this is about for me. Did anybody feel any discomfort, confusion, resistance?
Hello. So my phone kept cutting off, and I like had to rejoin the call like 3 times during the storytelling. But Sherry has shared it with me in the past, and I recall the story. And it's interesting, the little bits that I got again today, I felt some discomfort with the quieting down, with that black hat shut down, like a huge wave of just how enveloping and huge that is, that little movement, you know, if we're going to just do this and cover up a little. I've been really playing lately in my life with trying to show up truthfully and not pad everybody. You know, my fourth line, trying to keep harmony. If I can feel that there's something that's going to cause some discord, I tend to just pad everything, and then it makes it wonky and weird. And it really struck me as I was listening how much, you know, those little quieting down, the little sunglasses, the little shifting, how powerfully those little movements, you know, the impact ripple down the line, you know, that huge. So that actually really hit me this time. I felt it a little the first time I heard the story, but I was so much more just in gobbling up the yesness, you know, that I was like, oh, the words to the things. Yes, this is it. That this time, because I wasn't really, you know, there, and I was just the little bits feeling how, and with my kids, you know, I've got young ones that I'm witnessing where I've shut them down unintentionally, and I'm trying to rebreathe life, and I'm trying to rebreathe the confidence to explore and play. But yeah, just damn. Just how damn it is, where it's like, wow, whew, yeah. So I definitely felt some discomfort today, but yeah.
Thank you. So holy. To me, the metaphor is, I mean, really the beginning of it takes a little extra flexibility in my mind. That is the innocence of how it began. When I read Conversations with God, which is by Neil Donald Walsh, he channeled this conversation with God because he had this practice of like writing on a yellow legal pad questions that he had for God. And then one day God started answering him and he just started writing it down. And so he has like these 3 volumes of this really deep, entertaining conversation he had with God, which he recognizes, you know, I mean, it's in his same kind of tone, right? That God's like answering him. So he's having a conversation with himself. But there was one question he had, and I don't remember what the question was exactly, but the answer was that it was something like, why did we create this binary? What is separation for? And God said that like the light wants to know itself, and like a candle next to the sun doesn't know itself, because it's all one, right? It's like all merged. And that is like the state of reality or whatever. So like we create these contrasting environments. And I mean, that's the purpose of shadow, because somehow we can realize ourselves to be more through the game of forgetting, the game of shadow and contrast. And, you know, reading the story again today, I think it might be time to, like, I want to comb through it again and see if I can polish the language so that that can be as clear as possible. I think some of the confusion is a mechanism of this story. So yeah, I'm just careful to not try to meddle with it too much, but that was the seed that was planted in me for the beginning of the story, which was that there was a desire. There was a desire to know, for the light to know the light. And so it created a shadow. It created a cave of creation so that we could be like, here's one little light, and here's 2 little lights, and here's 3, and we can stack them together and make different shapes and things. And my hunch about truly like the greatest fear of human consciousness is that of merging. And so that's what the forgetting game is about. Like, we set it up to protect ourselves from slipping into merging again. And I think also to challenge ourselves to remember, I think the ultimate goal is that we want to hover on the edge of creation, awake, like without slipping into the bliss, because like the oneness has this kind of bliss draw to it, like, I'm just gonna like spread out and be one with everything. But there's like, we don't want to do that. So it's like when we don't trust ourselves to choose to, the consciousness of being a creator, we maintain the forgetting until we trust ourselves. To experience that bliss of oneness without slipping into the forgetting. Or yeah, because that's what the oneness can be. It's oneness, it can be forgetting as well. So it's like this forgetting was to protect us from slipping into oneness. And then we slip into separateness when we forget that we chose to forget. It's a funny little tricky pattern. And then the well-meaningness of that. It's like, okay, but all right, we created a shadow. Now we're going to pass on the okay. I think I'm coming back. Okay. Maybe I'm explaining things too much. Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Talia, for that. And yeah, and what I find so healing in the story is that there's just like a deep understanding of why we do that, like why we put the hats and the sunglasses on our kids, or why they were put on us. Like, it's not all of these other narratives, or it doesn't have to be. I mean, we can tell those stories, but those stories are just part of the pattern anyway. But if we can go direct and just realize like, oh, we did this just because we were like wanted to have fun and we thought it would be fun. And then we forgot that that's why we did it. And the shock of, the shock that we built in as a backup plan, like a safety measure, is uncomfortable, yes. And for those of us, especially who carry that channel, which Talia does as well, we live it. We really don't get to keep wearing the hats and sunglasses. And however hard we try, because we carry that code inside of us. And so we are viscerally in touch with the benefits of the shock and the discomfort. And that's why, we're built to go first and to trailblaze this stuff. And then also there's that development, that maturing of carrying these codes and these gifts that, when we experience early in life, when we're zapping people, when we're getting this feedback like, oh, you're hurting me, and we're just children and we don't know any better, or we're just in our 20s children or whatever, like, we try to protect ourselves and others with the hats and sunglasses, like, okay, like I'm gonna try to be, kind to you this way, in a way, and it's meant to like meet people where they're at. But I know for me, what I would get this rebellious surge then after I did that for a while, that I would just be like, And I still do that sometimes. But it's been so uncomfortable and so painful for me to deny that. And that it just drove me to become skillful with it. And it still drives me. And then there's also just that trusting for, that you don't have to like administer it to somebody. Like you can walk by somebody on the street and they get just the dose that they need. And then there are the people that may come to us, for support, that they do want us to facilitate that for them. But I know for me, for a while, I was confused and I would just try to facilitate it for everybody. That was disaster. But also it works. It's just like has a lot of folly involved and can stir up more trauma for sure.
I really appreciate that transmission that's helping me to see how, while I might allow, or it like so much easier for me to accept that for myself, that when it comes to my children, sometimes I'm like, oh no, where's your hat? You lost it. Like, let me go find that for you. Like,
yeah, like, are you going to be okay out there in the world?
Right. Even though like I have 4 adult children who are like alive and well, living on their own and doing their things. And I have 3 at home, and we've homeschooled for 20 years. And the ones at home, like we very much unschool, they direct it. And occasionally I have these moments where I'll be like, oh, what's happening right now? Should I be afraid? Should I, and it just, and this like, I don't know, like that current of like, ooh, is this what's happening right now? What is this? So that imagery is super helpful and so powerful, just to think of that like disguise, whether it's a big feathered hat with a lovely, like whatever, gorgeous little sunglasses, that it's whatever.
Your glasses on today.
I do, so I can see you. But it's still a disguise, so I really appreciate that. That's like, whew, loving that a lot.
Yeah, I hadn't actually connected it with that it is a disguise, and it's a disguise for ourselves first. And then relationally, it keeps us from seeing one another. And for me, I've always seen those stars, up above people's heads. That's part of how I got into so much trouble, because I'd be like, I know who you are, and I'm gonna shock you into it. Like, come on, it's gonna be great. And then we can all play together and you'll be fine. They're like, ah. And I've also seen, this was a big revelation for me. I've seen that people's stars will push them to me. And they don't know what's happening, but they're just like, I'm in your space. And I think it's because of hats and sunglasses or whatever. And it's like, oh, no, that's not why you're here. So before I had more discernment, I would just like hit people with the energy. And, it'd come out of my mouth, and these words would have really intense impact on people, and they'd get really triggered. And I would feel so innocent about it. And that's also why Anna Forrest was such a profound teacher for me. I don't know what her design is, but she's a trigger master. And what she did to me was she walked up and gave me my own medicine as a skilled medicine woman, who was just doing her job. And, some people she would just be really warm with, and they would get lots of attention from her. That was not me. When I got attention from her, for the most part, she would just walk up, hit my button, and walk away. Not my problem. And as I would just like swirl in that tornado of bitterness and resentment, eventually it dawned on me, like, this is what I do to other people.
I unmuted because I had a share and then it flew away. Yeah, I really appreciate this call and a lot of the reflections and all the takeaway. I've been trying to remember to not take things so serious when I'm in it, and so the reminder right now too to just play and to remember to look past the hats and see what's actually happening. It's been easier and easier as I've been trying to practice not looking at behavior and looking at what's under behavior. But I recognize that with a lot of people that have been coming to me for support, I'm still responding to what they're throwing at me, even if I can sense that there's, I'm looking at like 3 or 4 layers deep and what's happening. I'm still playing with them here and then getting aggravated. And then like I'm witnessing how I'm draining my energy, and then I'm emotionally getting wonky, and then it's like it's taking more time than it probably would, doing this whole weird dance. So this is a really good, there's a lot of nuggets for me today with this call and listening to the origin story again, and the reminder of, I always see like little kids and, the spark in people. And I've been playing the last few years with, and I know this is a safety thing for my own ego. Are they aware of it? And if I'm interacting with them, like, am I just hurting myself because they're so disconnected that what I'm trying to do isn't even registering? Or, I've put myself in some situations where, I could tell it was just not correct. And the reminder of the trigger, the trigger master, where it's like, hey, part of it is you just discovering your own impact and what's going on within the people, that you're touching, and why it's getting lost in translation, that this innocent love of me just trying to help them reconnect is, it's getting lost in translation. And that it's okay to say, oh, I pushed that button. Okay, bye. Like, I don't have to be in the mess with their mess. And that's been really hard for me to remember this. Like, you know what? Step away. Yeah. So thank you guys. There's a lot for me in all of it, the story and the comments.
Yeah, that's rich. And I see that there's the kind of strategies or experiments we can do with, like, once we've impacted somebody in a way that we're not really sure if that was like the way we would have done it if we were fully taking in not just like who we sense them to be without the hats and sunglasses, but also looking how hat and sunglasses up they are. Like, they've got a cloak going on too. And like some barbed wire for their, their decoration on their hat or whatever. That there's an opportunity with the maturity and these experience that we've had through development of shocking, that it's like, okay, I know that it's not it's not my responsibility to do anything for them. And I see this is where they're at. I see this is who they are. And then that can help inform ourselves how we can lovingly be authentic to who we are and what we're carrying in relation to them, which could just be like a little tiny, teeny, tiny recognition. Like, wow, you look beautiful in purple. Or like, nice hat.
I was thinking as you were talking that some of them love their coats and hats and how unloving it is to try to take them off. Just
Yeah. And we don't know their
Mhm.
journey with that, right?
Yeah.
We don't know. And I just started with a new coach who offered me a month intensive with him. He's kicking my butt. And when I start spinning out about something about anybody else, he's like, who needs to be loved? And I'll be like, me, sir. That's right. And I'm like, but wait, who needs to be loved? I do. All right. That's right. Good job. And I think when we're obsessing over like, I need to take this, I need to get this person to get their hat and sunglasses off. There's something that we are not tending to in ourselves when we think we have to do that for someone else.
Can I share something that just came through?
Yeah.
I did a ceremony on Wednesday. I think I messaged you that day. I think I sent you a voice message, and
Before.
yeah, I led a sweat lodge ceremony, and my mentor, who is a 4-1 juxtaposition, and like when you look at her, she is like all about simultaneously pushing all of the buttons, like boop, 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 and then it's perfect.
We're in a great position to have zero fucks for sure.
Yeah.
I dated one for
So yeah. So she's amazing, and I'm so grateful for, and I'm sitting there in the lodge, and this lodge is like unlike anything I've ever experienced, right? Like, yeah. So I'm sitting there in the lodge, and all of a sudden I realize, like, oh, fuck. Oh, like right beforehand, I had it, and like an owl show up, and I had all these animal messengers. And what came through was that ceremony carries itself, like through every single one of this, and that the only thing I can bring to ceremony is what I carry inside me. It's literally it. And I can get all attached to my tools being precious and amazing and this thing and that thing. And the truth is that when you show up in the ceremonial space, even with all those tools, the ceremony can totally fuck with everything and make it whatever it wants it to be.
like if you're idolizing a tool, for instance, or identifying with
Right.
it, the ceremony like has zero pause to just take it away from you. Yeah, or through a person.
And that day, what it was, I mean, it's, I'm in northern Utah, so it was like close to freezing that day. And we could not get the lodge hot, which is it's kind of what people generally come to Sweat Lodge for, right? And it was like, what the hell is, like, there's no reason why those giant ass rocks that had been in a fire for 6 hours, and it's not, anyway, we get to the end and it didn't matter because it was never about the heat. I didn't know that until that moment. has nothing to do with the heat. It has nothing, it has to do with the ceremony, and that the ceremony carries itself. And that
I-
you just channel what's coming through for the ceremony. And I was like, oh my God, that's like, and for me, that's my life. That's my life. The ceremony carries itself through me in my life. And when I show up, the only thing that I can bring with me is what I'm carrying inside me. And so I just have to try and be as aware of what that is and bring it. So that was my little thing.
Yeah, yeah, that is so sexy. Fuck. Because I experience this with myself too, and this is what I'm working on with my coach Craig right now, and also with my shamanic mentor White Wolf, is that it's like any blind spot I'm carrying about what I'm carrying shall be, like it shall be taken from me in by whatever means possible. So whatever my attachment is to that blind spot, whatever narrative I have about that, whatever resistance I have to seeing that, is like basically ordering up the method of removal. And when I am guiding others and when I'm holding ceremonial space for others, that means like I have zero allowance for blind spots. And just what you were describing there, I was reflecting a lot on White Wolf and what he speaks to about how he holds ceremony. Like when I returned to ayahuasca with him after 11 years, and I hadn't sat with him in ayahuasca before with some other people, he said to me, my responsibility is to this container. And he's like, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I'm not here for you. Like he said, my first priority is to the container and to the medicine and what the medicine is asking for and how the medicine's asking me to hold the space. And you come second to that, because this is how I make this a safe space for you. It's about the medicine and the ceremony first. And then I think of some, the experience I had in the second ceremony I sat in with him, which was with a group, which is like way more advanced for me, like especially because I'm called to be a facilitator. And so it's always very challenging for me if I'm not in a leadership role in those spaces. And like there were tools that he denied me because that I asked for, that he said no, because it wasn't in service to the container that I had entrusted him to hold for me. And the medicine was so like hardcore for me because of it. And at one point he said, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just, I think it'll be empowering for you to do that yourself. And I did it. And thank God he didn't help me. And then once I did it, then he actually did help me, because I wanted help getting to the bathroom. He was like, basically like, you might shit your pants. It's your blanket. You can do that. And I've seen a similar code with money or anything we desire materially that we're not getting. And that is that if you're saying that you need the thing in order to be or see or whatever, usually you won't get it. Unless it's the flip of here it is, and then it doesn't change, like it wakes you up, it's like, this isn't what I thought. So there's that flip side of it too. But I found like I have this practice now where when I'm really just going, oh, I really want that, I need that, I'm not getting it, how come? Like, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing right now that if I had that money I wouldn't be doing? Or I had that relationship, or I had that whatever it is, that support. It's usually support based for me. And then if I can work out to keep doing that thing, because that's what the lack is pressuring me to see. It's making me look at things and follow intuition that I wouldn't if I had that thing. Oh yeah, and I'm glad to see a comment from Laura, because I did want to check in with the comments, and I saw Brianna saying some things. Here, I'm gonna scroll back to see. Brianna said, ooh, that makes sense. The purpose of shadow, and ooh, message received about wanting to remove the shades and hat from someone else. Yeah. That one is sobering for me. That is really like, it's been very ouchy on my ego. And Laura said, thanks a lot, Sarah. Your story made me emotional, especially because of my relationship with sunglasses. Oh, I'm interested. I felt like a child listening to a powerful fairy tale, and I love fairy tales. I have to go now. I appreciated very much your invitation. Thank you, sweetheart. Sweet dreams tonight. All right, see you around. Great. Well, I think we're in completion here. Anyone else would like to say anything? Now's your moment on this call, and we'll move on into our Sundays or Sun nights. Julia got popped off. All right, beauties. So much love and blessings, and
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a little prayer that you may be gentle with yourselves, and also a little invitation, like how can you entice your spirit into your body and support any discomfort or resistance you have. And hey, it's okay to wear hats and sunglasses. There's sometimes there's a wisdom and a gentleness in that, to really honor our soul pace of unfolding. So thank you all, and big love.